let's show you this clip here of Trudeau thinking, I guess he wakes up every day thinking about how he can make life more affordable for Canadians and as a trust fund baby in his ivory tower. And this will speak volumes as to why I think he's lagging in the polls.
The disasters we're facing as a world are not just bad luck. Of that, there is no question. They are being driven by climate change and nature loss. The question is, therefore, what are we to do about it?
Tax.
Some, including some politicians, have tried to sell us on ignoring the environmental crisis, whether that's climate change, biodiversity loss, or pollution. Or they say that we have to choose between making people's lives more affordable on the one hand or protecting our planet on the other. Well, that's just plain wrong. I wake up every day and think about how I can help make life more affordable for Canadian families. That's what our grocery rebate, or our work to build housing, or our $10 a day childcare is all about. And I also wake up every day and think about how to keep people safe from things like wildfires, and how to protect the world that our kids and grandkids will inherit. These goals don't contradict each other. In fact, working on one must help us achieve the other. And I'm not just talking about how our pollution pricing cuts emissions while putting money back in people's pockets, although of course it does.
What?
There's so much wrong. At first I was like, yeah, you're on the right track for once. He's like, all of these things happening at once are not a coincidence. And then he's like, it's climate change. But it's funny, if anybody else says something isn't a coincidence and they have a theory, they're automatically conspiracy theorists with him as well, right? But how is the climate tax going to put more money in our pocket? He knows that everybody's concerned about it. It's so infuriating. And then he goes to wildfire and says that it's going to fix the wildfires. Well, how about you just stick to the promise that you made on the campaign trail in 2021? The Trudeau Liberals promised to spend $500 million to get Canada, firefighters across the country, everything they needed for the next fire seasons. When we look at Northwest Territories and BC, that didn't happen. I have another report coming up to show that where the money has gone, and he hasn't even put out half of that money towards it. And so it's like, yeah, we'll use the taxes to make up for our broken promises, if we're even lucky enough to have that happen.
I think at this point, the Liberals just mostly campaign on broken promises. You can pretty much use that as a fail-safe. That whatever they say is either going to be the exact opposite or just a complete failure. I mean, Canadians don't want $10 a day childcare. They don't want a grocery rebate. They want to just have the money to be able to afford groceries and childcare if they need it, or they want to be able to afford for one of the parents to stay home with their children. Forcing both parents into the workplace, making life so unaffordable that even if both parents work full-time, robust schedules, they still can't make ends meet. This isn't the sign of a good government. That's not the sign of a strong, healthy economy. Having a grocery rebate for people because they literally can't afford to feed their children fruits and vegetables, that is a sign that your government has failed. It's not a good thing to be pushing out these kind of rebates and these credits while you continue to increase your carbon tax, which I don't know, have we ever been shown how many degrees of cooling the carbon tax is going to make the earth by even the next 3 years from now? It's all absolutely absurd and ridiculous. And, you know, as the floodgates continue to be open for our immigration strategy under the Justin Trudeau Liberals, we now see in the mainstream media that migrants, in particular, this report features Syrian migrants. They're complaining that Canada isn't living up to what they were promised when they were told to come here. Like, have a look at this clip.
In here. Mohammed Al-Shawa brings us into his hotel room. Stacks of clothes in the corner and their own blankets on the beds. This is the room where he, his wife, and 3 children have been living for a month.
They came here to be like a Canadian, to be like good future, but it's not. They treat them like an animal.
Al-Shoa is from Syria but arrived from Lebanon. Speaking with a translator, he says he's asked for a second room but was told it's not possible. So the way out is to find an affordable home, which he says is a challenge.
He needs 3 bedrooms. So they give him $3,000. Okay, tell him, okay, you have to find a home as soon as he can for 3 months. After that, they're going to kick him out.
Mohammed Reedy, a civil engineer from Syria, has similar financial concerns for his young family.
Give him like $1,779, like a salary every month. The money they give to them is not enough, especially when he looking out for an apartment or a house.
His wife also had a miscarriage shortly after they arrived and needed urgent surgery. But Reedy says they weren't given translation services.
They need someone to help him, like special translator, like for a hospital, for emergency.
CTV News reached out to Costi, the organization assisting refugees here. A spokesperson told us Costi ensures that interpretation services are provided whenever they are requested by our clients. Refugees across the city have been facing challenges. Last month, dozens, mainly from African countries, were left sleeping on Peter Street until local churches opened their doors to give them temporary shelter. All levels of government have been at a funding stalemate. Last month, the federal government promised nearly $100 million for the city of Toronto.
The federal government will be there, but when it comes to settling asylum seekers, again, municipalities and provinces have the large part of responsibility on that.
Al-Shoa says if he'd known this is how his family would be living, he never would have come.
If right now they told him, okay, you have to go back, you say, okay, I will, because here's nothing to help her.
Alison Hurst, CTV News.
Yeah,
I just have one question. Did you catch whether he said that they're receiving a salary of $1,779 or they're wanting that?
That's what they're receiving, from what I gathered.
And it's not enough. Oh my God.
No, but at the same point in time, welcome to Canada, where everyday Canadians are struggling with the exact same thing and are not getting, a $3,000, here's your first and last, go find a suitable place, which is pretty much impossible where I am in Ontario, well, across Ontario, probably in general, unless you're going up extremely far north. This is obviously a result of a not well thought out failed government policy of, like I said, opening the floodgates to mass migration and refugees. If you don't have the capacity and you don't have the framework in place to properly assist people, then why are you offering assistance in the first place? It's obviously an inept failure by the federal government. But it also ricochets down into the other levels of government, from the provincial down to the municipal. And it really reminds me of that time. Like, it was really funny to see Trudeau respond that way, because remember when he responded to a veteran asking why the government doesn't help them with their medical bills and their housing and all of the issues that came as a result of them literally serving and defending our country. And Trudeau said, oh, you're asking for more than we're willing to give, or more than we're prepared to give, whatever his exact wording was. And yet here you have refugees that aren't even Canadians, that didn't serve our country to defend and protect it. And he is saying, oh, the federal government will be there, will be there. This is so backwards. It is, I don't even have any words really to say how backwards that is, from a veteran to a refugee. I'm all about helping people. Right. But you need to be, you fill your cup first, right? It's, you can't help, you can't help anybody from an empty cup. And that's what we're trying to do here. And it's obviously just failing both the refugees and everyday Canadians who are similarly in a place of struggle.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you made that comparison, because it just shows how messed up this whole situation. And I think the goal is, am I right? Is it like 100,000 more or something like that? They're saying that because we're going to have like a slow and birth, that this is the answer to it. Meanwhile, they have posters up in Vancouver saying only have one child. But even that person, it's like we're catfishing these people. They think they're coming to some glorious place of financial freedom and prosperity. And you're right, we're suffering. A lot of people don't have that money. I remember as a child living in some pretty tight situations. Sometimes we had to live with other people because we didn't have somewhere to stay, but we didn't expect the government to come to our rescue and give us a salary. But they're literally saying, if I had known this, I wouldn't have come, which begs the other question, how bad is it where you're coming from? And I know we've done reports, I'm forgetting the URL, migrantreports.com, maybe, something like that, where we're showing that a lot of these asylum seekers are coming here in different ways. They're coming here on visas and never leaving. And as soon as they come here on sort of a visitor's visa or whatever, they're already put up into hotels. Even in British Columbia out here in the Abbotsford area, and I believe the Richmond area, you know, they're put in suites and hotels and they get everything that they would need at the moment. And of course, it's stressful for them because it's like, yeah, welcome to the life of Canadians. 30-year-olds are still living with their parents. There's no way they can afford rent, let alone a household. Families are renting places together. Out in Vancouver, it's very popular to be charged, $700 to share one room in a house, or more than 700. Sometimes it's a bunk bed. So this is ridiculous, and it absolutely reflects on the Trudeau government, and it needs to stop. We need to do something drastic because this can't keep piling on. I mean, we really need to rein it in.
It really is piling up, and no end in sight. And that's the really concerning, major concern of this. I'm just going to read 2 really quick super chats, and we'll go to a quick ad break and come back to some trigger warning again, Chrystia Freeland videos. Fraser McBurney, thank you, Fraser, for your support. It says Biden is not in charge of the executive branch of government, but who is? Obama is. That is why they want to jail Trump. The DMs, the Democrats know that they will be in jail. Yeah, those are some pretty serious allegations, and I guess we'll see in real time as it continues to unfold. Yeah. Sharon Donner, 78, says, you want to make sure they are not part of the youth being groomed by WEF. It exists. So this is in regards to that youth council that we were discussing a few minutes ago. I happen to know a person who was/is part of that training. That's a good point. Yeah, because Justin Trudeau and a lot of his cabinet ministers were part of the Young Global Leaders, which is, World Economic Forum, that's WEF, initiative. And quite literally, Klaus Schwab, the leader of the head honcho of the WEF, the World Economic Forum, said that's what they do. They train these young global leaders and then they infiltrate the cabinets. And so I guess the WEF is some sort of conspiracy theory still, if you are watching and listening to what the mainstream media would say. But he literally said that. Maybe we'll show a quick clip, if we can pull that up, of Klaus Schwab saying, we infiltrate the cabinets, and then we can go to an ad break and come back with some Chrystia Freeland videos.
Yeah, and if you can't find it fast, I just want to say Chrystia Freeland, who we're about to talk to, is on the board. She's on one of the board members of the WEF.
Young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more, half of this cabinet are for our actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
It's so embarrassing, honestly.
And that's supposed to be a conspiracy theory, as per the mainstream media would have you believe. Nope, that's actually what's happening, and they say it themselves. You just need to actually do some journalism and find out. And